Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Healing Conversations. My name is Einav Avni. I'm an emotion code, body code, and very soon to be belief code practitioner, and also an alignment coach. These podcast healing conversations for anything chronic is really here to just bring a message of alternative healing for anyone suffering from anything, but maybe more specifically chronic pain, chronic illnesses, and unexplained medical conditions. So let's get started. With me today, Jami Lee. Jami, so lovely to have you here. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm
Really excited for our conversation. So let's get started. Tell us something about us, about you, even
me.
about
Okay.
you.
Well, let's see where to begin. I wear so many hats. I'm a mom of 7 children that I've given birth to, and I have 4 additional children that came as bonus kids through my second marriage. So that's a complete gaggle of kids. And they are my life's work. No matter what projects I have going on, they are truly my heart and soul. And I am the founder and visionary of Alternative Healthcare Solutions and also a body and repair, because I'm a glutton for punishment. So I kind of overachieve, right? But I'm very passionate about these things in my life. I'm a nutritional health coach, and I really focus on working with people with chronic conditions. So it's so great that I find like-minded people. I know that you deal with chronic conditions as well. I'm very passionate about it, and I've seen a lot of really cool transformations, and most importantly, they've started in my own family and in my own life. And I think that's kind of the wound that makes the healer. I think that the wounds that I have gone through have really helped me become the practitioner that I am. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me. I'm in near the Nashville, Tennessee area. I live in a 13-acre farm with all of our gaggle of children and a couple of chickens.
That sounds lovely, actually. So maybe let's get started. So, what, like you mentioned, right? There was a story, there was a reason why it all started. What was that?
Yeah, for me, there was kind of 2 areas that started. But I'll talk about my dad later. But my daughter was really where this went up a notch, where I really started to pursue the transformation that can happen for chronic conditions. When she was only 10 years old, she was diagnosed with polyarticular arthritis. And for those of you who are listening, if you're not aware of what that is, it's basically a chronic, a very fast growing arthritis. So it starts in the small joints, and then it moves to all of the major joints. So basically, when she started feeling like fatigued and achy, she went downhill really fast. It was over the course of about 3 weeks, where she went from chasing horses, beating up her brothers, climbing trees. We called her the wild child. She went from that to being bedridden. And this child had a very high pain tolerance. I mean, she'd get stepped on by a horse, kicked by a horse, and she'd just be angry. Um, so for her to be crippled in bed and crying in pain was alarming, which it would be for any child, but knowing her pain tolerance, it was even more so alarming. So we took her in and had her diagnosed, and the doctors basically told me that she was going to have injections once a week for the rest of her life. She was going to have to be on pain medicine around the clock, whether she needed it or not. And that, this was something that she would be crippled if I did not go this route. They told me she was going to be crippled at 8 months. And I don't know about you, if you've ever had, your own chronic condition. It's okay to guinea pig on yourself, but when your child is faced with a chronic condition and they're looking at being completely crippled over it, it is so terrifying. It is traumatizing in itself. And to know that, you're starting on this journey, not knowing what route to take. Do you take the conventional medicine, and sign her up for a lifetime of medications that will only compound and have more medications? Or do you try and use her as a guinea pig to heal naturally? And, there's been a lot of controversy over natural solutions for many years. Um, so it was a terrifying experience. But I asked the doctor, right before she was ready to head out the door, I asked her, I said, what about food? How can I, help her through food? Now, the doctor looked at me and she said, there's no need for even going gluten-free. She said that there's no studies to prove that food causes inflammation in the body, which we all know is wrong. I hope today our listeners know that that is wrong. And I'm grateful that she said that, because it put a check in my spirit to say, wait a minute, she might be wrong about things and we can explore this further, right? So when she said that, I said, okay. And then the last thing she said to me, she said, go have her eyesight immediately before we get her injection started next week. And then she walks out the door. And I am terrified, thinking, what on earth? Like, why do I have to get her eyesight checked? And it's not like she explained to me why I had to have her eyesight checked. She just lays that in my lap and walks out the door. So I immediately, of course, go to the optometrist and I'm like, Doc, what is up? Why do I have to worry about her eyesight? Am I going to have to worry about her going crippled and blind in the next 8 months because of this arthritis? I had no idea that arthritis affect the eyesight. And he said, oh no, arthritis doesn't affect the eyesight. He said, it's the medications they're about to put her on. It causes bleeding behind the eyes. And so they want to establish a baseline before they start her injections next week. And
I have goosebumps all over. I like, no, tell me this is not true.
but how many people out there don't know and just jump into it? I am blessed because I had also gone through an experience prior to that with my dad, with him having an experience of blood clots that started in his pulmonary artery that went down to both ankles. It was one continuous clot, and he was looking at double having both of his legs amputated. And I knew right then and there that, food was going to heal him. I didn't know how, I didn't know why, I didn't know any of the details. But I learned that through food, he could strip the veins and transform his life. And he did. He lost 100 pounds in 90 days. He was no longer having, facing amputation. He had reversed his type 2 diabetes. And all of this was through the healing power of food. And so I had that in the back of my mind going, this has to be wrong, because there's got to be something to this. And here was the key. I studied the medication that she was on, and it was methotrexate. The word methyl, and there are hundreds of medications out there that start with methyl. When it starts with the word methyl, that means that it's addressing the methylation cycle. It's trying to put a Band-Aid on the methylation cycle. Food helps reverse the methylation cycle. Food helps feed that and cure it and reverse those things. So that right there told me she was wrong. And this was, I obviously did not sign her up for this program. I, went the natural route. I went and had her further diagnosed and actually found that she had Lyme's disease, which is very often there's going to be some sort of virus that triggers an autoimmune disease. And for her, it was Lyme. And when we addressed that, this next practitioner that I took her to, they put her on about $1,000 worth of supplements a month and almost a straight juice diet. And as you can imagine, that was not that was like detox storm for her. Her detox pathways were not open up. She became bloated and her eyes were dark circles, and she was even more fatigued, and she was hungry. And it was an extreme on the other end, right? You have the natural extreme and then you have the conventional extreme. And I knew there had to be something in the middle. So I formulated a plan for her to repair her gut, to make her food bioavailable, to nourish her cells completely, and to really address her entire body. And that plan I took to another doctor and said, here's what I'm doing. I'm gonna heal her body with food. I need someone to support me on this journey. And he said, you got it. And he did. He helped me. He gave me resources, and I learned more. I spent we went on vacation in Florida that week, and I just consumed every bit of information he gave me and completed my plan for her and started as soon as we got home. And 90 days, she was completely reversed of her arthritis and in her Lyme's disease. And she's 17 years old today, almost 18. So we're coming up on our 8-year anniversary of her being completely free of this. And yeah, no flare-ups, no problems, no special diet, no supplements. She's a normal, healthy child.
That's amazing. What an
Yeah,
incredible story. And wow. I mean, wow, so many things that you mentioned in that story.
yeah, yeah.
It's really, I mean, I have goosebumps just really thinking about all these medications that they were so happy to prescribe, and actually how incredible that you said no.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And so I really understand parents and people who are going through that terrifying experience. The medication was actually chemotherapy. So if you can imagine, I was signing her up, or I would have signed her up for a lifetime uh, plan of chemotherapy, microdosing chemotherapy. And, you know, it caused so many problems. She wouldn't have been able to get pregnant. It was just going to add to the problems. And it didn't even really stop the disease. It only slowed the progression of the disease. And so, yeah, my heart really goes out to people who are facing those chronic conditions and really don't know how to navigate the world of natural. And it's, maybe scary and terrifying, which is one of the reasons why I launched Alternative Healthcare Solutions. Alternative Healthcare Solutions really helps you to bridge that gap to walk into the natural world. And one of the things that we really haven't talked about, which is your specialty as well, is really going into the emotional side of healing. And in my practice, I have found that every single client that I have worked with a chronic condition, they will volunteer the information whenever I ask them. So tell me about your lupus. And they will say, well, it all started when? And they will directly link it to an emotional trauma. And the CDC just put out a study that says that 85% of chronic conditions can be directly relinked to emotions. So if the CDC is picking up on it, then clearly there is something to this. And, for my daughter, there was a lot. There was a lot of emotional things that she was carrying, and that was one of the things the first practitioner said to her, or the natural practitioner said to her. He said, "So, what are you so angry about? What bitterness are you holding on to?" And I personally, as a mom, was just like, "Hold the phone! Like, what are you saying to my kid right now?" Feeling a little personally attacked. This child has nothing to be angry about. But that was my first introduction of how the emotional side of things can really trigger the nervous system, which can trigger conditions that are chronic. And so, yeah, it's very important. And at Alternative Healthcare Solutions, one of the ways that we're addressing this is, for example, is our vision for really bringing about different practitioners from around the globe who have different modalities that you would align with. For me, the people that I bring in, I may need, I may address the whole food side of things and help them put their body in a healing state. But if you are not addressing the root cause of the emotional and the trauma that's in your life and healing that energy inside of you, then it really doesn't matter what foods I put in your body. It really doesn't matter. We're only going to get so far before we have a reoccurrence of the problems. And that's why practitioners like you are so important.
I'm really happy that you said that, actually, because a lot of the time my method is really this combination of the healing, the energy healing, and the alignment coaching.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, with energy healing, we will clear the blockages from your energy fields. That's what we will do. But we need the alignment coaching to teach you how to not get back into that place again. and it's a combination, and it's very deep, and it's very, it works. People drop the disease, and they get better. Everything changes, but
Yeah.
to begin with, people think they're just going to come in and there's going to be a magic wand, and that would be it. And so there's still a really big gap between what people expectations are and what, I guess, what reality is. But
Yeah.
it's a process of learning and the education.
Yeah. And something I just taught a workshop on, we talk about, I think I mentioned in the beginning that I'm currently getting my doctorate in quantum healing. And really that looks like you're going into the energy of healing, right?
Mm.
Into the quantum field. But one of the things that I like to give a visualization of as far as your healing goes, I don't know if you've ever seen, I was always obsessed with science as a kid and all these different type of, experiments and stuff. But there is a video, you can find it on YouTube. There's lots of them because everybody loves this experiment. But have you ever seen the experiment where you pull 5 or 6 different metronomes? And the metronomes are like the clock ticking where they're just going back and forth, and they're, the little metronomes. And if you line up all of these metronomes and you set them off at different paces, and they're all going different wavelengths, frequencies, that if they will all eventually line up with the strongest frequency.
Mm.
And then next thing you know, after a couple of minutes, they will all be synchronized. And if you think about everything we consume is a frequency. Food has a frequency. The things that we take in around us, such as the television shows we watch or the music that we listen to, is a frequency. The relationships that we're in is a frequency. The emotions that we have are a frequency. So you've got all of these metronomes going off, right? And they will all fall in sync with the strongest frequency. So if the strongest frequency you are in is a strong emotional negative trauma, then it doesn't matter what foods you have. All of these are going to follow in with the frequency of the emotional trauma. And you will be gravitating towards low frequency foods, which will cause that cycle to repeat. And it'll only strengthen the frequency of the strongest vibration.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Exactly. I had a conversation with someone, with one of my clients, because he was, I kept noticing he was very angry. He had the energy of anger, and eventually I had to say, look, if you are in the energy of anger, in the energy of healing. So you have to make different choices. Something needs to happen here, and I think it was a very, it was a wake up call, really, and a really important conversation to have. But I really like the way that you explained it, and I think it was very, very clear. It's yeah. So I totally agree about the emotions, and definitely we need to address them in any healing. But going back to your story, so at the time when your daughter was diagnosed and going through all of this the beginning of the challenging period, you were not into nutrition at that point. This came afterwards, right? It was
Yeah.
learning as you went.
Yeah. Other than, helping my dad. So my background was really, I was a photographer before that, stay-at-home mom, raising 6, 7 kids. I mean, I have 7 now, but at the time when she was going through this, I only had 6. And, having, when I was a photographer, I photographed the cover of a book that went Amazon's bestseller for I think 5 years in a row, and it was a book on weight loss. But I wouldn't say it was a book on nutrition. It was definitely a book on weight loss, and it was fantastic to have that experience. So I had knowledge of weight loss, right? But not really an understanding of how the body works and how food relates to the body. So then when I went through the process with my dad, and, that was pretty devastating. My dad was, at the time, he was in his 50s, And he was the peak of his career. He was a private investigator that investigated insurance fraud all across the United States. He was licensed in almost every state. And he went from top of his career, almost having an empty nest with no children. Him and my mom raised 9 children together. And by that time, he was, the peak of his life. And they sent him straight into a nursing home. And if you can imagine working so hard your entire life, dedicating it to raising your family and pouring into your career, and then facing that blow of having to go into a nursing home, lose both of your legs, and most likely stay in the nursing home for the rest of your life. They also told him that the best thing he could do was staple his stomach shut. And that and the only reason why they said that was because that was his key to getting out of the hospital, was weight loss. Because if he would lose weight, then my mom would be able to pick him up out of the wheelchair to take him to the bathroom and put him in bed. So that was the severity of it. And that's when I knew zero about nutrition and had to dive into and learn. And we hired a nutritionist to teach me how to feed him. And I cooked 3 meals a day. And, that's when I learned that food could strip the veins, and really was proof, to see him to walk out of that nursing home with both of his legs, with no more type 2 diabetes, 100 pounds down. He had his life back. I saved my daddy. But, again, the what we talk about, I learned so much about food, and I helped him heal. And the knowledge of that is fantastic, and it can change your life. But here's two problems. One, I did it, not him. I cooked those meals. I learned. He didn't take ownership over his life.
Mhm.
And after he got out of that nursing home, he also didn't heal the emotional side. So my dad has had a rough life. When he was 13 years old, his father committed suicide. And it just happened to be on his way home from school. He was on his way home from school with his brother, and they heard the gunshot, and they were the first ones to find him. They walked in on him in the middle of that final moment.
Mm.
And that was traumatic. And my dad was not, from there on out, he was raised with a very bitter mom who felt that his father was selfish for taking his own life and had abandoned her. And so she silenced all of his mourning and really wouldn't let him grieve his father. And so, as you can imagine, my dad has had so much trauma in his life. And prior to his blood clots, he also had the emotional trauma of losing a son. My brother was killed in a car wreck a couple years before that, and he was only 13. And so my dad has suffered so much emotional trauma, but it's too painful for him to process. It's too painful for him to dive into. And that emotional trauma will constantly put you in a repeating pattern of trying diets, gaining weight, losing weight, trying to find the answers. And really, you have to go in, and yes, the food will work. The food will do the trick. But we really have to address the whole person,
Mm.
mind, body, and spirit. That's where truly transformation happens. That's when the true transformation takes place. And it's hard. It's hard work. You think changing your diet is hard? Healing that emotional trauma is hard. And that's why I'm so passionate. I don't know if you have time, do you mind if I share about this Saturday and what we've going on? Because I'd really like to invite your listeners if we're able.
Yeah, let's go. Let's
Yeah.
do that. Absolutely.
So this Saturday, we have an online virtual event that'll run from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. It'll also have replays for 72 hours after the event ends. So you've really got, a good amount of time to go back and watch these replays. But we're going to be having an event on narcissistic abuse recovery. Now, I say that because of all the emotional trauma that we face. so many people are in emotional relationships that are having a negative impact on their health. And that's truly where I want to bring that transformation, is to help them to understand the power that you have within you to heal your life and the resources available. So we've got a fantastic speaker that is going to be our keynote speaker at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. His name's Dr. Jami, and he's been on Geraldo. I don't know if anybody is old enough to have watched Geraldo. I grew up on it, but he was on Geraldo, and he co-wrote a book with Lisa Gibbons, and he has been a mover and shaker in the toxic relationship world, and is doing some really incredible things. And so he's going to be talking about how to reparent ourselves. And, you know, in the case of my dad, that's where we have to start. We have to learn to see where our parents, even if they were perfect parents, there are no perfect parents out there. And to be able to understand that when we get to the stage in life where we're facing trauma and healing, that the things that we've gone through our childhood and that first 8 years are so, so important to the foundation of the rest of our life. And so when we need to understand where we are today, we need to learn how to repair ourselves and understand the importance of that. And so that's what Dr. Jami is going to be talking about. And I'm really looking forward to that. But we also have practitioners line up every hour on the hour that are going to be addressing different root causes and the connections. We've got one practitioner who's going to address the gut health side of being in a narcissistic relationship. And, you know, you don't think, oh, what does my gut health have to do with, you know, my relationship? But it has everything to do with your relationship. And then we have another practitioner who's going to be a couple practitioners together. They're going to be talking about the repeating cycle of the parent cycle of when you have been raised by a narcissist, how to heal from that. And that one's going to be a live Q&A, and I'm really excited about that one. So it's going to be really engaging. And then we're going to have a practitioner who's going to talk about the generations and why do I keep attracting narcissist into my life, and really addressing those patterns. And she's going to walk us through, you know, kind of how to identify that and how to release that. And that's going to be on a quantum level. And it's just going to be a fantastic event. And I really am passionate about helping people find solutions. And that's why I'm so grateful that we align in so many things, you and I, and really have that belief. I think when you go into the concept of quantum entanglement, and for those who don't know what that means, it just basically means that we're all connected. So when you find that alignment of that highest vibrating frequency, your life is going to find that frequency and get in rhythm with it, like I was talking about earlier. And so we have found a collective of practitioners that are ready to align your life, and that's what it's really about. So we've got a coupon code. This event is actually $75 to attend. It's all day, but because you are so gracious to have us on, we have a coupon code, and it's untangled, all caps, and that will get you in at no cost. So you can become our guest.
That is so exciting. Thank you so much for mentioning all of this, and of course for the code for the people to attend. But I all of this will be in the description of the chat, so people can read about it and access it. And I think it's a little bit late for me in the day, but I will definitely try and watch the replay. There's some things that you mentioned already that I'm like, definitely want to watch that.
Yes, it's going to be very powerful. And, you know, like I said, there's going to be those replays. They're all going to be in the system, and they're going to be able to go in there and watch them anytime they need to. So, yeah.
And that makes me think of some other questions actually about this, the thing that you are doing, this the integrated system, I guess I'm going to call it. So what is your day-to-day like when people come to you with some challenges, like like your dad or like your daughter, how does that journey go? Do people come in and you help them figure out a plan to how to get better, or is it really more in this kind of education with the virtual days that you're holding?
Well, it's two things. When people come to me personally for nutrition and wanting to get their body into alignment, I really help them to find the high frequency foods that their body needs to put their body in that healing state. So we identify those low frequency foods that they're consuming, and we identify the high frequency foods so that they can bring their body up into that elevated state to start healing. So my coaching program is a 90-day program that I take them through. However, each one of my clients automatically get invited into our community, which is full of resources. So we have an algorithm-free social media where our community comes together, and we're going to be in there talking about healing. We're going to be giving resources. We're going to be giving facts. Right now, we've got over 50 hours of replays from these workshops and these practitioners all across the board. And there's going to be companies that we align with that also. We've got a nanotechnology CBD company, and we've got Isogenics, which is a great company as well. And we've got all of these amazing companies that are offering products that have real solutions as well. And you're able to go in there and really find the things that you align with, find that alignment, and find those practitioners that you align with. So as you're coming into my coaching program, you're getting my knowledge and my wealth of information and wisdom and guidance, but then you're also getting the collective's wisdom as well. We just invite you in as like a family. We really do like invite you into our healing home and help you along your journey. So that's really, and then beyond there, that's the day to day where they're able to go in there and access these resources. But then twice a month, we'll put on these events where it is the interaction. It's like gathering everybody in the community center, right? And coming together and having that time of really asking questions. So you're going to be able to come on live with a quantum healer and say, I'm dealing with this, and how do I approach this, and why does this happen? You're going to be able to ask those questions right on the spot, and they're going to be able to help you. So it's really, the way I view it is it's going to be changing the way we view healing and the way we take care of our bodies, mind, and spirit for generations to come. When we heal our lives, it impacts those around us and those to come and those before us. It really does.
You just remind me of something that in the methods that I use for the energy healing, the emotion code, body code, and the belief code now as well. The founder, his name is Dr. Bradley Nelson. He always tells stories about experiences that he has when he's running the seminars, teaching people about all of these things. And he tells a story about how when he does a demonstration, say for example to release trapped emotions from someone, he sometimes find inherited emotions. So these are emotions that you basically trap on the moment of conception, and so you're born into the world. You're coming into the world already with someone else's baggages, basically.
Yeah.
And he tells a story that one of the seminars he was releasing some inherited trapped emotion from someone, and afterwards a woman came to him and she said, I need to tell you that I see spirits. I see, that's what I see. And she said, when you were on the stage releasing these inherited trapped emotions, I saw these, generations of spirits basically being very curious and interested in that, the release of this emotion that obviously came from their lineage. And she said, but on the other side of the stage were other kind of spirits, and they were the spirits of people to come. So basically, when you release this inherited emotion, you didn't only, release it from the past, you were also releasing it from the future. And so,
Wow. It's
yeah,
so powerful. And that is truly what I believe that we're doing here and doing together. Like I said, on a quantum entanglement side, we are all coming together. We are all connected, and we are raising that vibration. We're raising those frequencies to really bring about healing that will last for generations and affected generations. And it's fascinating. I met an 18-year-old boy, man. I guess man. I have a couple of 18. Like my fourth child is 18, so, and almost my fifth child is almost 18. So, to me, it's still a boy, but he's a man, and he is already an emotion code practitioner, and he's already learned these modalities of healing and healing his life. And it's so powerful to see that things that we haven't learned until well into our adult years, right? But we're seeing a generation that is going to be really immersed in this and understanding things, wisdom, ancient wisdom that's beyond conventional medicine, and really start impacting the generation that we're in right now. And so it's really encouraging. It's really an exciting
yeah,
time to see that, these things are natural. They are the foods that you can grow in your backyard or in a container on your deck are so much more powerful and full of high vibrations and healing properties than foods that we're getting in the fast food line. And these are more affordable. And it's incredible to see that how we've gone from this other way of healing, ancient traditions, to this fast-paced, convenient world that is now no longer convenient. It's now taken its toll and really had an impact. And we've gone from a generation that's carried trauma and shoved it down to now we're saying, hey, let's look at this. Let's address this. Let's stop this. And it's exciting times. It really is. It's exciting to see what we're gonna grow into, and as
mm,
a nation and as a universe. It's beyond,
yeah. I definitely agree that there's definitely a movement now, and it's very exciting. Jami, we're nearly coming to the end. So just before we say goodbye, I wonder what message would you have for our viewers or listeners?
My message stays the same. It is always that you can heal. You can heal your life. And it begins with your mind. Really having that understanding and that belief that you can heal, that's where it all begins.
I love that.
And
And
we believe for you.
this is everything, when you believe, you really can change. And what we are doing here is really helping more people understand that
Yeah.
there is another way. Today I went to the hairdresser, my new haircut, and I was chatting with the hairdresser, and he was telling me about his wife that has some condition that I cannot even pronounce. And he said, we've been to all the doctors, we don't know what to do. And I was like, welcome to the new chapter. There is what to do. Let's talk.
Yes, that is always, I know it sounds strange, but I get so excited when they say that. I had one client that came to me and said, we've been to 6 dermatologists, the best dermatologist around. Nobody knows what's happening. And in one phone call, they were better in a week. And it's just like that. Those are the ones I live for, right? I mean, don't you? That it's just like, good. We're glad you've exhausted the medical field. We're glad that you went through all of that. Now let's start here and let's see some results. It's so exciting to me.
Exactly. So we just have one comment that came in from our live viewers. So it says, very well explained. Thank you, Jamie. Jami, and they have, oh, love the hair. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so just repeating to say that all of the information for the fair that you mentioned, and of course all of the details about you and what you do, is going to be everywhere that is accompanying this chat. But Jami, thank you so much for being here. I love this conversation and I love what you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone for listening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.